the third edition. Our producer, Mike Bethel. I'm Bob Harrington. And our guest tonight, Harvey York, the, I guess you call him the CEO of the Putnam Memorial Health Corporation.
That's right, Bob.
Julia Maloney, Executive Director of the Home Health Agency here in Bennington. And we're going to talk, at least to start off with, we may end up winding and going in different directions. We're going to talk about cost shifting and your budget problems that you're having facing Medicare and Medicaid and those budget cuts that Congress put through several years ago, really, and how they are affecting you, and how, mostly for the rest of us, how they're affecting health insurance costs that are affecting other budgets this year, whether it be school or town or whatever. Harvey, I know you put out a paper, and we might as well start with you. And what did it have to say? What were you saying in that paper?
Well, we were trying to explain to employers who were trying to explain the significant increase in insurance premiums to employees is exactly what's causing it, and what we think we need to be doing about it if we're going to prevent this from happening again in the future. Percent of home health's revenue comes from Medicaid, and that means right now we're losing, the home health agency in our community runs a deficit of about $280,000 projected for this year.
Before we get to that one, the next
Yeah.
question, I've been reminded to repeat the number that people can call in. It's 442-3122. 442-3122. I believe it's supposed to be on the bottom of the screen, but apparently there must be a problem. I'm not sure. 442-3122 is the number to call if you want to talk, comment, or ask a question. Tell us about the Budget Act of 1997. What did they actually do? Cut Medicare funding?
Yeah.
Congress?
Yeah, Congress ended up reducing the amount of payment that Medicare was going to pay to hospitals, to physicians, to home health agencies, and to nursing homes.
Now, why did they do that? Because
they're running out of money.
Money, okay.
The way, again, Medicare has solved its problems for the last 15 years of an aging population, of having more people turn 65 than the year before. Rather than raise taxes, which is not legislatively very popular. The way you end up paying for it is just reduce the amount they're paying.
Okay. You're cost shifting. Let's talk to now Julia, who reminded me before we came in here, she's not in a position to cost shift.
That's right.
So what do you do as your funding dries up?
Well, we're very heavily dependent on charitable contributions in town funding.
I wrote a few days ago. Governor Alwardine is adamant in asserting that Medicaid is a secondary cause of the higher insurance rates. He believes the real reason for the Republicans' focus on Medicaid is that they are unhappy with his program of using Medicaid as a vehicle for bringing uninsured Vermonters into the health care system. Dean is quick to point out to the many other causes of rising health insurance rates, including a shortfall of federal Medicare money, increased health care usage, mandatory coverage for some treatments, and rising prescription drug costs.
And of course, the governor's right. There are many other causes of government underfunding. But, and we're not saying that the governor and in our state, we as Vermonters ought to take responsibility for the whole problem. We've got to fix the piece of the problem that's ours. The piece of the problem that's ours is the Medicaid piece. And right now, there's a $50 million shortfall. We can't hide our head in the sand and pretend anymore it doesn't exist. It does exist. We're now cognizant of it. Now we need to fix it.
Mike, did you have a question? I know once before you said there might be other causes too.
Well, I think it's a national problem, to be honest with you. And when you get somebody, no offense to you or anybody that runs any of the hospitals across the country, or any of the governors or any of the senators, this has to be addressed on a national level.
And it is.
Well, it's being addressed, but it's got to be solved at the national level.
People might have a difference of opinion with you because the state generally want to control.
Bernie Sanders, who knows, an advocate of national health care, about 2 weeks ago. And of course, what he's saying is that, first of all, the United States is paying more for health care than any other nation, nearly double what most other nations. And if the other nations increased what their money was going into health care to the rate that the United States is, they could afford not to have all these long lines and afford to take care of their people like in Canada or England or something. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but he's saying they just don't spend enough money in those countries on health care.
Frankly, I think the right answer to this whole question, if we really want to make health care right, we've got to come up with ability to financially afford that. And the strategy that's right, that makes sense to me, is to start figuring out how we can keep people healthier and practicing it. It's really not going to be turned into a gas station.
I don't think they could anyway, could they? I mean,
I thought you might want to answer that ad from the village of Fillmore Pond this past weekend. The same spirit of collaboration, we'd like to emphasize our long-standing invitation to the trustees of Putnam Memorial Health Corporation to work with us at the village so that Putnam may focus its energy and its scarce health care dollars where the most needed, and so that we may all work in unison for the best health care and senior services in the region. How did you take that ad?
We were a bit surprised by it, and I'll explain why. First, we provided a letter of support for the original developer of that project to build it, even though we knew we were doing an assisted living project. Now you might say, why are we doing that? Isn't that a competitive project? We don't view it as a competitive project. It's a project that provides alternative and gives people choice in this community for a facility. When that was built, we were originally planning 64 assisted living units. We downsized that to 34. Or 60, we downsized to 34. Because there wasn't enough demand to cover all of those assisted living facilities. We believed our market studies indicated that there was adequate demand for the independent living units out there, and that both of them can fill on independent living units. So we think we've kind of been good supporters of that project. We have said to them, when it comes to this activity.
They're asking us, please say goodbye. So
Goodbye.
we have to say goodbye. Thank you very much. Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
See you next time.
Thanks for having us.
Just stay seated and talk.
I guess so until.
Yeah, we'll sit and
How do the local representatives, Medicaid, are they supportive?